It's a little after 2, so I guess we can get going if everyone is good to go.
Yep.
Okay. So we call to order the Crescent Grove HOA Board of Directors meeting. I think we have a quorum, so we'll start. Brian, do you have the agenda in front of you?
Yes. Next one would be proof of notice.
Okay, I can say I put the physical notice out near the mailboxes on Sunday. So
They were electronically delivered to all residents on Friday, and so notice was provided. And then the next step is the adoption of minutes, which at the annual meeting, we opted to wait till this meeting to adopt. And I have circulated the meeting that took place before the annual meeting, those minutes. But I don't believe you all have seen the annual board meeting minutes yet. So I will circulate those. I completed them, and it's just the basic of approving Deborah for the position, and I'll circulate those to you all so we can get those approved at the next meeting.
Okay.
You get Diane in here.
Okay, let's keep moving.
And then the next is the discussion of pine straw versus cocoa brown mulch.
Okay, so on that topic, I just wanted to throw out, among the board members, what options for us to consider, and we're in the process of getting quotes. I just think one application of pine straw per year doesn't seem to be adequate, so I'm trying to get alternate quotes. I think we're all in agreement with getting quotes, at least get the information, see what the costs are. Based on what we had previously, with our contract with DTE, it was like $26,000 for one application of pine straw to all the lots and the common areas. That would be about $260 per house. So if we did it twice, add $260 to our annual fees to do that twice everywhere. So we've asked for quotes to just do pine straw on the lots, to just do cocoa brown mulch on the lots. I understand, from the prior quotes that cocoa brown mulch is more expensive than pine straw. We're waiting for the quotes on that, so we'll see what that comes back with. And then we'll just have to evaluate it. The other thing that, for members of the public who may not be aware, the Master HOA, Babcock, has basically said they're trying to get away from pine straw because it's more prone to flooding, and they just don't like the look of it, I think. But primarily, I think it's the flooding. So, I'm not sure if they will even allow us to do pine straw again as of right now. I don't believe any changes have been made to the written regulations that the Master HOA has in place. I think they still allow pine straw on the verges. So although they may be saying they want to get away from it, I think if we wanted to, we would need to double check, but I haven't seen any changes to the written materials as to what we can do and not do as of yet. So, that is a cost increase that would be imposed on us if we have to get away from pine straw everywhere. So we'll need to,
and it's significant.
yeah. So, I mean, these are things that to some extent are beyond our control, but I think, there's areas where the pine straw has just washed away and it looks like not good. And I just think doing it once a year is not adequate. So we're either going to have to do pine straw twice or some other combination of everything. Maybe we don't have to do pine straw everywhere twice. Maybe we can just do pine straw at the individual homes twice a year, and the front entrance once a year and the common areas once a year. We can talk about that. Another thought I had was possibly just getting a bunch of pine straw and a bunch of mulch and just having it dropped off, at the cul-de-sac area and let people, limit people to like 2 bags of whatever per house and just kind of let people freshen up their own areas. I mean, that would save a lot of money, but some people can't do that. So I don't know. I just throw that out as another possibility. I mean, you know, to just do the bare minimum at this point, unless we get cheaper quotes from some of these other contractors to just do, even if we just did the lots for pine straw a second time, I'm gonna guess that's gonna be somewhere around 1,800 or 18,000 to $20,000. So, we're talking about adding 180 to $200 per house per year, to try and do a second application. So that's just a ballpark, and I now open it up to anyone who wants to talk. Obviously, first Jeff and Deborah, any comments or thoughts on any of that?
Well, I think we have to look at alternatives. We can't afford, pardon me, to, just say we're going to have a second application of pine straw because it's going to cost, each resident, an additional, $50 a quarter. And that's a significant amount. That's going to take us, over 500, 5.5 approximately, for our quarterly dues. And we're going to be closely becoming the most expensive, HOA, standard HOA in Babcock, other than Babcock National. So I think we have to be very conscious of that. We have to look at other alternatives. 2 bags of pine straw, if we use pine straw, doesn't do anything. So, we'd have to really think this through. I am not optimistic with getting quotes from, other landscapers solely for, mulch or pine straw, because they're going to be more expensive. I'm sure that we get a break, I would suspect, because we have, our contract with DTE. So they're going to be a little bit less expensive for some of these things. So I'm not terribly optimistic about that. I don't disagree that we need some kind of a second application. I think we can all speak from our own homes that, that first application of pine straws, a quarter of it's gone with the first heavy rain that we have. We're going to have to get creative about this, I think is my point. I think that we can probably save a ton of money if, we do it ourselves and we have the requisite amount of mulch or pine straw dropped off at each residence, and each residence is responsible for spreading it. And those of our elderly population, I mean, that's what neighbors are supposed to be for.
Right.
So we can kick in and help people that aren't capable of spreading that. I think that certainly is something to consider. To have a pallet dropped off at each location, and that might be expensive because then they're having to divide it instead of having their big fat truck of it and rolling it out. But I think they divide it anyway. That's my.
Even if they put it all at the cul-de-sac and we got more than 3 bags per house, it might still be doable. I mean, we can. I'm sure some people have wheelbarrows, other moving device. I have a hand truck. We can make it work. We can have a volunteer day or something like that.
Well, that's what it would be. That's what it would be. It would be, and for those that are able, and you take your share, and the people 4 houses down the street that aren't capable of doing this, and we get it done. And I think that certainly is a creative way to reduce the cost. I mean, I think that we can probably justify a little bit of a hike in dues, as long as people think that they're getting something for the money. Right now, we're experiencing a lot of trouble, with DTE. So, you know, it's going to be hard to sell increasing people's dues. Debbie or Deborah.
Yes. I mean, that is a great idea, Jeff, on neighbors helping neighbors. If this would, cut the cost for everyone. It would also help this community, I think, bond a little better, as well. So, excuse me. But yeah, I do believe we need to get creative on this.
Brian and James, do you guys have any thoughts, or, have you guys come across this situation?
Yeah, experiences with other developments.
Yeah, I do have some thoughts on the matter, if I may. I haven't seen associations take a direct approach whereby they have a centralized mulch or straw delivery take place, and then the owners grab the material and apply that at their own homes. What I have seen, however, is associations where they will contract with a company for X number of bags of mulch or bales of pine straw to take care of the community, both commons and lots. And then there will be sometimes a remainder, bags or bales left over. In these communities, they will open those remaining bags and bales up to the residents so that they can take them if they feel they need them. One thing we run into, and this is what I'm asking the board to be mindful of, is that just because we tell residents, you're allowed 3 bales or 3 bags or 5 bags, whatever it may be, need to be prepared for the possibility that some residents may not limit themselves to that board prescribed allowance.
Oh, say it isn't so, James.
I hate to burst your bubble, but it's quite common, actually. I just say that because I hate to see the association in a position whereby there isn't either enough material because some people have taken too much, or that we have to come back and say, okay, we need another half pallet or pallet delivered. That was just
I just don't think I just don't think it's that hard, to be candid. I don't think it's that hard for DTE to be dropping off stuff at residences. I don't think it's that hard at all. They have to do it anyway. So I think that's something that we should be asking them about.
Yeah.
One thing I would want to input as well is that this has been an ongoing concern with Babcock Ranch for at least the past 8 months, since that big storm in January where we had that meeting together and we discussed the golden creeper and the various options. And I discussed with Megan and Ken and some more of the Babcock Ranch team 2 weeks ago, and they said that they haven't reached an official decision from the head at Babcock Ranch or Kits and Partners as far as what they want to do to get away from pine straw in the verges, but they told me they would heavily advise against putting pine straw in the verges or in the community. And I would just hate to have us do this second application and then for Babcock Ranch to come in and say, we're going to take all that out because we just got rid of pine straw on all the verges.
Well, I have a spoonful of medicine for them. They're not going to dictate to us, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, unless they're going to subsidize the cost for it.
Yeah, understood. I just want to throw that out there. It's still a work in progress.
It is not written. It is not a regulatory issue. And we're in the middle of the season right now. And they're not going to dictate to us, how we're going to, what we're going to apply in our common areas.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the other thing, I don't know if this is something you guys, how you feel about this, Jeff and Deborah. When we come to more of a range of options, more of a defined range of options about possibly, opening up to some type of Facebook poll or some other type of way to get feedback from residents as to, we can do this or we can do that. If we do this, the cost will be, an additional $100 per unit. If we do that, it's going to be, there's a lot of people that don't like pine straw. They have their own mulch, and I'm fine with either way. I think it's fine, but I mean, some people can't afford the additional cost involved with mulch. And, should we open it up and kind of get feedback from, people as to whether they're willing to pay more money to put mulch down everywhere?
Well, I think that we have to do that. I think that's part of why we need that spreadsheet that lays out, what the differences in costs are. If there are additional quotes, what those quotes are. And we have to come before the public and let them know what these options are. They have to help us make this decision because, I mean, we're all in this together. We all are paying dues. And,
Yeah,
this is going to have an impact on their pocketbook, and they absolutely need to have a say in this.
Yes,
At
I
the end-
agree.
At the end of the day, we're going to have a majority here, and we're going to have to work with that majority. And it is reasonable to transition to mulch. It's more expensive,
yeah,
but it's more durable. It's not going to wash away, like our pine straw has. It'll last longer. And I'm not sure whether you need 1 or 2 applications a year. But, it may be that, we only need 1 application a year, and to freshen it up, to use your term, Joe, during the process of the year.
I will say I have mulch that I've done myself, and I've refreshed it once a year, and it's good. I mean, and now that this second year, I've got a thicker bed of mulch too, which also is helping with the weeds more when you have that thicker bed.
Well, yeah, it's a much more effective barrier, and I mean,
Right.
there are a lot of things that mulch does. So, we have to be mindful of certainly of cost, but it's good. Ultimately, it's going to be the decision of our residents that drive what we do.
Right.
yeah. I think it makes sense to get everybody the information. So, there are people that are not happy because we're doing pine straw, but they're also complaining that they're paying too much money, and we can't, if we do mulch, it's going to be more expensive. There's no way to get around that. So, it's just, we can't have it both ways. I prefer mulch as well. I just think it looks better, it smells better. But, I'm trying to be respectful of people who are on a budget and maybe can't afford to do that.
Well,
So,
and it's not it's not as simple as just getting the mulch and dumping it on top of your pine straw. You've got to remove that pine straw. You should be removing pine straw anyway. So there's labor involved in this, and
yeah, I mean, that was kind of crazy what we got from,
oh, that's ridiculous.
that
is
was,
ridiculous.
that
ridiculous.
can't be possible, right? $30,000 to remove
That
the
is
pine
ridiculous.
straw.
I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
And it really speaks to some of the issues that we're experiencing with this particular vendor.
Yeah, so just,
And frankly, Joe, I would send Greg back a note and let him know that is a ridiculous quote.
yeah, just so that folks know what we're talking about, we got a quote from Down to Earth for putting pine straw just in the individual lots. It was like $28,000 and change, and it said on there remove, as part of that it would include removing the pine straw. I wrote back to him and said, or I was talking to him on the phone or something, and I said, well, what if we don't want to remove the pine straw? Because I had talked to Deborah, and Deborah said that her sister is a gardener, a master gardener, and said that you don't necessarily have to remove the pine straw. So, I thought maybe we could save some money off the 28,000 if we didn't remove the pine straw. And Greg from Down to Earth said, oh no, that quote does not include removing the pine straw. And then he sent back a quote to us and said the cost to remove the pine straw would be $30,000. So, I mean, that's what we're talking about when we're saying that that's ridiculous and, you know, so, I don't know, Deborah, if you want to talk to that issue of do we need to remove the pine straw?
I mean, I have my sister-in-law, who is a master gardener, has said both ways. You can leave it on or you can take it off. If you leave it on, leave that pine straw on, that's just going to give you more of a base for your pine straw. And it'll eventually, I mean, it's good fertilizer. I mean, that's why they do it too. Pine straw is a good fertilizer. So that's going to be in your ground. It will decompose. So you can do it either way.
Okay.
I mean, in the way that where we're at now with it so sparse in some areas, I mean,
Probably doesn't make
I mean, there's not going to be that much for them to rake up in some areas, I'm saying.
So I think what we need to do going forward, we need the spreadsheet that lays out what the costs are. DTEs are only quotable right now. Joe, I mean, I can do it, you can do it, Deb can do it. It doesn't matter. You decide. And I'm happy to send Greg a note and let him know that we, vehemently disagree with the amount that they're quoting for removing pine straw. Or we just don't even need to deal with it at all and move in the direction that Deb has indicated, and that is to leave it. If we're going to go with mulch. But anyway, we need to have that spreadsheet so that we can show our residents, the costs, and we need to also indicate that, if we decide that, it's going to be an additional application of pine straw, then it's going to cost X number of dollars, which equates to this much a quarter, your dues with the total amount. If we go with mulch, which I believe, if I saw the quote properly, it's another $5,000 on top of the quote for pine straw. It's going to cost this much more. However, you won't have to apply it twice. We'll be able to, replenish, parts and pieces of it, and would have to figure that out. So what we're dealing with here is the store brand and the brand name. The store brand is the pine straw. The brand name is the mulch. Mulch is going to last longer and will provide a better barrier for weed growth, and that pays you dividends in the long run. And then we need to have a meeting. I don't care whether it's virtual or in person with with all the residents. It needs to be well publicized. It can't be just send an email. I mean, we got to get it all over the community. Probably spend some money and actually send individual mail pieces to people because it's so important, because it's going to have an effect on their dues, and we need to let them have their say. And then we need to decide, and we need to do it, all within, the next, 3 months.
Yeah, I was going to ask James and or Brian, when do we have to make a decision on the budget?
So ideally, we'd like to have all budgets adopted and ratified prior to the end of October.
Right.
Okay, and right now, what we have in the budget, I think for this year, is pine straw with a set aside for 26,000 or something in that ballpark. So if we wanted to spend more than $26,000 this year for for anything, when does the budget go into effect? Is it January 1st or
Calendar
okay.
year, yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, because we got the pine straw installed last like November or early December. So that's what we have set aside now. If we want to spend more than that this year for this upcoming application, either we have to roll that money over into January and not spend it, and then as part of the next year, just do it in January, or we're going to have to somehow collect additional money this year so that we can have enough to spend more than the 26K if we want to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think our main thing right now is we need dollar figures attached to these various
Oh,
scenarios.
sure we do. Sure we do.
Yeah, and that's, and again, when we get that in, I'm happy to review and take a look at them and see if there's some that look reasonable, some that look off. That's not a problem, not a problem at all. And then when we have an idea of what, you know, our total financial exposure is, either option, then
Yeah.
certainly,
So Brian,
certainly.
Jeff, you had asked that there were a couple, we were going to get quotes from obviously DTE for those 4 scenarios. Brian, can follow up with Greg, because we got like 2 quotes in. I don't think they cover all 4 of the scenarios. Then Jeff, you had mentioned a place that does national, and
Yeah, well,
Brian tried to find it. And
I thought it was Pristine. That's, I can check, you know, to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is.
okay,
I looked up the name from Joe's email and typed it into Google and didn't get any hits back from it or anything. I may have spelled Pristine a different way than how it is for their company, but I wasn't able to locate anything for who services Babcock National. It came up with one result for about 2 hours north of Punta Gorda, and got 1-star review, and just I thought for sure
Okay.
this is
Well,
it.
just
So I will-
Yeah, I'll see what I can dig up for you guys as well.
just
Okay. Is
call
there a way
Ken.
to contact National,
Yeah,
and someone at National, and see who they use?
yeah. I'd just call Ken and find out who it is. It's that simple.
Ken from Babcock.
In Spino, gotcha.
And then
ask him for any other than Brightview and Sunnyview, or Sunny whatever.
Sunny Grove.
Sunny Grove.
Both.
Yeah.
Find out who else they're using, and we'll get quotes from those other folks that are already existing at Babcock.
Okay. So we're trying to get
Sure.
quotes from multiple different vendors here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have reached out to the other 2 landscaping companies from my other 2 communities in Babcock Ranch. I sent those inquiries out. I haven't yet heard back from them. I checked my email before, but haven't yet heard back official numbers from them. It'll probably take them a day or 2 to get back to me with those official numbers.
But they have
Okay.
responded to you?
The landscape pros, I talked with him on the phone this morning, so he's for sure going to give me those numbers. I don't have a definitive date on when, but he's for sure working on them today to get them over to us. So at least one has confirmed they're going to be sending numbers over.
If the board is agreeable to this approach, there are companies that specialize exclusively in mulch and pine straw.
That's right.
I can reach out to them and see what their availability looks like for the balance of this year. I say that because typically these companies are booked up usually by the late second quarter. That having been said, you guys aren't, you're not 5,000 doors. You're, 100-ish doors, and it wouldn't be a huge undertaking. And I think we would probably realize some cost savings in
Okay.
going to a specialized vendor versus.
And I think it's smart. I think it's smart to do that,
Yes.
because that's what they specialize in. And we're probably going to get the best deal from, a company that specializes in that, rather than a landscaping company that's really looking for, a full 360-degree contract.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm going to have to drop off because, as you can see, I'm working.
Be well, Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anything that we need to vote on?
Brian, you
No.
got the agenda. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, there's no actionable items on the agenda. To my recollection, this was the, other than establishing a next meeting date, this was the sole item of business.
Okay.
Correct.
Thanks,
All
Jeff.
right. Okay. Talk
Bye,
to you all
Jeff.
soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. So I don't know how to frame up the whole idea of getting a quote for just like bags of the mulch and other stuff. Let's just focus on the 4 scenarios that were in the email I sent earlier, and then we can deal with the freshening up part of it as like a step 2 after we figure out what we're doing with step 1. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
just so I am to ensure that I am all right. Yeah, I just want to make sure I had those scenarios, and I do.
Okay. So
And you wanted quotes as well, Joe, for the removal of pine straw as well, correct?
honestly, I guess it can't hurt to get that information, but I'd be we're so we're so cost conscious that I don't think even if they want to charge us $10,000, I mean that seems like a lot of money to spend taking off pine straw. I would probably not bother even getting the quotes, but
Understood. Just want to make
Yep.
sure.
My position on that, if I may, is that
sure.
to Deborah's earlier point, and I know this to be, fact that you can in fact install, a additional pine straw or even mulch atop existing bed covers. Your bed cover right now, is presumably relatively thin, therefore it shouldn't be a problem covering it. And as that pine straw disintegrates, it, it benefits the pH of the soil. And I think that even if it were 10 grand, that would be 10 grand that would be probably more astutely allocated towards actual material versus removal.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say let's not even bother getting it just because it's I don't know.
Understood.
But
Yeah.
you know what? Jeff did mention it, so I guess it can't hurt to get the information.
Okay.
Okay.
So, anybody in the audience have comments on any of this stuff? We're not making a decision on anything here. We're just talking about it, and we want to get more information and kind of schedule the next meeting once we get that additional information and have something more concrete to talk about.
Yeah. About 15 minutes ago, Jess asked if residents were allowed to speak in the meeting.
So
Jess,
yeah,
do you have any?
I
There you go.
did. I asked that because I've never been here, so I didn't know.
Okay.
Pine straw, bad. I don't know. As a resident, I'd be willing to pay extra to have mulch, but I already have mulch, so I don't know if that's gonna look a little biased since I already have it. Um, but I'm all for mulch. Pine straw just clogs all the streets up, and then everybody's outside trying to clean up the street all day. So I don't know if mulch would do the same thing though. I know it's heavier. I don't know if I don't think my mulch has ever blocked the street, so I don't know if you guys know that.
I mean I've seen in Trails Edge, mulch. The only difference with mulch is it's smaller particles, so it may not clog up as quickly, but I've seen it clog up areas in Trails Edge. So if there's enough rain, it causes the float. It's all going to the drain, and then it's going to get clogged. So I don't think
So
it's a cure-all for that issue.
I guess like I said, I've not attended a meeting yet because I tend to forget about them. But is there a reason why we can't have the peanut something with peanut? It's like a green covering in there.
Perennial
Is that?
peanut?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Are you talking in the verge?
Yes.
We had a meeting with those guys. That is an acceptable verge, ground cover, but they didn't recommend it because it doesn't. It's hard if you get weeds in there, you have to pull the weeds. You can't spray any kind of chemical to kill the weeds because the chemical will kill the peanut grass or whatever it's called, the stuff with the yellow and green. Because we had looked at that as an alternative to the golden creeper, which we put in a couple spots or 4 spots.
Just that's in front of my house, the golden creeper.
Oh, okay. And then the last thing, I know that they have like mulch glue. I don't know if it's actually called glue, so don't beat me with that. But could we just
We-
put mulch down and then put the glue stuff down so then it can't move into
You,
the streets?
you can do whatever you want with the mulch. We brought that up with the people at Babcock when we met with them because there was flooding and we're like, we got to do something. And from an environmental perspective, they would not allow us as an HOA to put down a mulch glue. So
Mhm.
you can do whatever you want with your mulch, but we can't do it.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm pro mulch, I guess. So I'll let somebody else talk. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
To piggyback off of Jess, I mean, from a looks standpoint, I'd be more pro mulch. I think mulch also to me only looks good initially and then it just starts to fade. So even though it might physically still be there, if it hasn't washed away, it doesn't stay pretty. So I mean, Deborah, I know you've switched and there's a couple houses like Jess, you've switched to mulch. I mean, we haven't here, but we use mulch in North Carolina. So ours did kind of shifts with the rain. So um I just, from like a financial standpoint, I personally couldn't justify a second application of pine straw. I think our yard always kind of looks crappy with the pine straw. But also, I really don't think that we have a whole lot of pine straw left, even in our lot, um, to justify that amount. I know we're having to do common areas, and I don't argue the common areas, but if I'm specifically talking about our house, I mean, we ended up ditching the little bit of whatever we had in the backyard since it's behind the fence because we were having such issues with down to earth replacing the pine straw. So we just have what's in the front, which is very little to justify adding a cost. And I know that won't be the case for everybody, but um, I definitely don't think adding cost for pine straw is something I would ever get behind. It'd be interesting to see what kind of quotes you're going to get on mulch and then just how it's going to look throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, we know if we just, with the quote that we had, if we just did another second application of pine straw everywhere, it would be $260 per lot more per year. And the only other quote we've gotten so far is the 28 change for mulch, and that would only be for the lots. So I think like Jeff said, it'd probably be somewhere in the 30s, 34, 33. So, we have right now budgeted 26 for pine straw for one application, this upcoming November, I guess. Um, So if we switched to pine straw or to mulch, there's a $5,000 or so difference in price that we either have to wait until January where we have the new budget and have the money, or we'd have to do some kind of special assessment and figure out if, that's what we want to do to be able to afford the additional money for pine straw. But like we've all said, we're in the process of getting these quotes from various vendors to try and figure out um, what's most economical, what the options are, and then we'll kind of go from there. But these are all the different things we're looking at. We're trying to keep the cost down, but if we do more than what we're doing right now, the costs are going to go up. So
Hey
I
Joe,
just
I don't know if this was brought up in a previous meeting. I know I saw it on Facebook at one point. And I don't know how everybody feels about it, but is there neighborhoods in Babcock where we don't pay for a lawn service? I just don't know what they even do for our yard exactly. Like I weed it. I see Deb like weeding her yard. Same with our mulch. Like they don't come and replace any of our mulch because that was a special thing that we had to go through well, we didn't. The previous owners went through the HOA to do. So then they're not doing that. I know that they cut the grass on some weird schedule, but like I don't think you could tell walking past our yard. I know that not everybody can take care of their own yard, and maybe that's the issue, but has it been brought up that we just wouldn't have full lawn care?
yeah, it has been brought up in I am personally against that because if you have a neighbor who doesn't take care of his or her yard, you're stuck with that. So we're paying a relatively small amount for the lawn care that we're getting. They're contracted to come out 42 times a year to do the grass cutting. They do that every Monday, in the 42 weeks a year where they do it. They trim the bushes, they weed whack, they put fertilizer down 3 times a year, I think. And it's costing, and then they do the mulch, all that for each person's paying roughly $1,600 a year for that. So if you tried to get someone, you go try and hire a contractor to come out to your lawn and do that for your lawn, 42 times a year, you're never going to spend $1,600. You'll be lucky to spend $1,600 a quarter to get somebody to do it. So I understand that, we all understand they're not doing enough and to meet their contractual obligations, but we're also not paying, like what we would be paying if we had individual contracts with each house, where you're spending $5,000 a year just to have your individual house taken care of, fertilized, everything done on an individualized basis. It's a kind of a group discount here. So, I would ask everyone to kind of keep a grain of salt and understand, we're getting a group discount. We're, we're getting we're paying a lot less than what you would be paying if you hired a contractor to just do your yard. There's no way you're going to get anybody to come out to your yard for $1,600 a year to do the stuff that they're doing, which includes the pine straw once a year and all the other stuff. So, we're all well aware that it's not perfect and there's a lot of room for improvement with these guys, but that's where we kind of are. At least that's where I am. And some people, yeah, there's some lawns when I walk by, I see the front lawn looks like crap, to be honest. And everybody has to take some individual responsibility for the lawn. If it's starting to brown out, you've got to do something. You got to put a ticket in. You got to complain to DTE, or maybe they put in bad grass when they put your lawn in. Or your sprinkler is not working right. You got to keep on top of it to some extent on your own. And if your grass dies, you own the grass. So we've got to be each individually vigilant on our own lawns, and that's unfortunately just the way it is right now. We're trying to do our best to supervise them and make sure they do what they need to do, but at the end of the day, each person owns their own lawn, and we gotta make sure that what's supposed to be done is getting done. If it doesn't get done, we all pull a weed here and there to try and keep our stuff looking good. That's just the reality of the situation we're in right now, unfortunately. So.
Hey,
And
Joe, I have a question. Oh, sorry.
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Um, I am just wondering if, and I don't know, I guess I'm asking this because we don't really talk to a ton of neighbors, so I'm wondering if I'm the only one that thinks this, but in the verge, we have that tall grass, that's planted. And I feel like when we pull into our subdivision, it just looks so out of control. It doesn't look well kept at all. And I think coming from the landscape company, they say, oh, we prune as needed. So that might be something that they don't think is needed in there, but when you go in other subdivisions, other neighborhoods, it's thinned out. They might be taller, but they're thinned out. Like ours seem to, I think they've only done it once since they've taken over in January. Am I wrong on that?
They say that they're doing it twice a year. I have asked Brian and James to let us know when the next time is that they're going to do it. Yeah, I think they did it once in like January. So
Yeah.
we're past the 6 month mark. They're for whatever their second trimming is. But like if you go through Trail's Edge, they have different kinds of grass in their areas. We have, and we're stuck with it because that's what Meritage planted. But they have a lot of what I see in Trail's Edge is muley grass, which is like a thinner type of
Okay.
grass that
Yeah.
doesn't grow as like crazy big. We have Fakahatchee grass in certain spots that gets
Out of control.
really big. It
Yeah.
gets really big. I mean,
And
you
it just
know,
looks, it doesn't present well. And I get that we are stuck with it. That's fine. But maybe couldn't they trim that every, like more than just once every 6 months? I mean, they're already past that anyway. So they aren't holding to that.
yeah, I mean, we can, that's another thing we can present to them, that we want certain types of grasses done more frequently. Um, I don't know how frequently they do it in Trail's Edge, or elsewhere, but I don't think you're supposed to do it too frequently. That's the way that grass is. Like some people that do their own trimming, I know, keep it in like a triangular thing almost all the time. And honestly, that's not good for that type of plant. I mean, if you don't want it to be kind of spreading out a little bit on top, then you really don't want that kind of grass to be there. It's not meant to be in a little pyramid shaped thing. That's that's
Yeah,
just
I
not,
get that. And I see some people, yes, they maintain their own part of that. I just think they're so overgrown that it just looks like, I just wish that we could keep it a little cleaner looking. Not so big. But that's
Brian, when you guys reach out to those guys to find out when the next ornamental grass cutting is, can you ask them about the Fakahatchee grass, in particular, getting that done more frequently? Because it just grows, it's just too big.
Right.
Yes,
The muley
absolutely.
grass is more controlled looking. It's maybe
Absolutely.
let's just start with 3 times a year. How about that? Like, and when are, like Jamie said, they're overdue for the second cut. I don't know. They probably have some recommended time as to when that would be cut the second time because of the seasonal changes in the water and all that. But I want to know when it is. You know, so
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I too am all for the mulch. I feel like it looks a lot better, more presentable, and we wouldn't mind. I mean, we did our own, we paid, out of pocket for that to get it done because we do like that. So if something goes around, we would definitely sign that too, stating that we are all for that.
okay. Deborah, did you have anything further?
Well,
Otherwise,
the only thing I was getting ready to say is also on, with DTE, they are a lawn service company. They're not a personal gardener. So we might have to go out and pull a weed here and there, that they're not going to get. Because I mean, that's why I do it. I don't like the way they pull my weeds. I don't like for them to spray them. So that's why I go out and I do my own weeding, because I don't like the way they do it. And I don't mind doing that. Did I sign up for that? No, but it gets me outside, gets me some exercise, and I'm proud of my lawn.
yeah. And Brian, there were a few lawns that are struggling as we've described them, people that have essentially front lawns that are dead and at this point don't appear to be coming back. I'm thinking about on Saddle Road, when you come
Yeah.
in on the left, there's a few lawns over there. What's the plan on those? Are we following up with them? Are those people going to fix their lawns?
They have been notified, and we've been getting correspondence back from those residents we sent the email to, with regards to their struggling sod, and a lot of them have gotten repair quotes from DTE or adjusted their settings accordingly. And there was 2 that we didn't get any correspondence back from, and it's sort of a decision that if we want to go and repair it ourselves, as we informed them we would, then we'll have to take the next steps to make that happen. But it's in a position where we've gotten some owners to follow through and they're addressing their issues and it's starting to recover, but there are a couple that still have not had any changes or responses back to that initial communication.
Okay. If you could get that
By the
information
time-
to James so that he can follow up on that, because we're gonna, it looks like crap on a few of those lawns when you come in on the left side there. So we gotta get those people to, I mean, we're talking about like a 10 by 10 area in the front lawn that, and it's not fair to neighbors. I know some of those people have backyards, and there was the guy Jim at the board meeting, the annual meeting, was complaining that his neighbor's yard is just full of weeds in the back, and it's just not fair to your neighbor. It looks like crap, and your neighbor has to look out and see nothing but weeds in the backyard. Maybe I don't know what the cause was, but whatever the cause was, it's not the neighbor's problem. So we need to follow up with those folks if they haven't gotten their lawns into better condition, because it's not fair to the people who are doing the right thing and trying to keep their lawn healthy and stuff. And it just looks like a wasteland next door,
So if I could offer one, because I'm a house that Brian emailed, and I'm kind of frustrated that DTE has not responded back to the ticket, Brian, you actually put in. But we got the email that our lawn looks like crap, which is accurate on the left side. But we also watched it start at our neighbor's house and slowly creep over to ours. So there's something going on with the grass. So I have no problem replacing the grass, but if my neighbor doesn't replace the grass and there's some, I'm going to call it a disease, y'all, because I don't know what else to call it. But if there's something going on with his grass and I replace mine, it's just going to come over and kill my grass again. And I had sent Brian pictures. I mean, and I know y'all walk. You can see our left side next to my left neighbor is dead. My right side is beautiful. So it's not a matter of watering, which is kind of like DTE can't, makes it sound like you guys are controlling your water your grass. No, my grass is perfectly fine everywhere else but the left side of my house, where the neighbor's grass on that side also looks like crap. So Brian, like we kind of put the ticket into them. Like, I mean, I get that they're landscapers. Maybe I need Deborah's sister-in-law, but like, can somebody look at the grass and tell me like something's going on with this grass? Like what's going on so we can like actually fix it instead of
right. I think
fine and then it just goes brown again.
this is one of those things, James, that like, this is a problem with DT. Like they should be, maybe it's a bug, maybe it's a fungus. I mean, that's their job. Control the lawn and take care of it. So this is something that, if you put a ticket in and then the ticket just goes into no man's land, this is why I've been like kind of like asking Brian, go onto the Max Panda system once a week, see what's going on, and then, make sure that it's getting actually addressed, because, what is she supposed to do?
Yeah.
So
No, I understand completely.
we don't want to be dealing
Everything's
with this.
reactionary on their end, at least it seems like, to an extent, versus proactive.
Yeah. I mean, there's multiple possible explanations for what's going on with her lawn that they need to look at and figure out what's going on. Let's see. So just so that people know, Brian's last day is Friday, and then James is the manager for this area. James is going to be the interim property manager until a replacement for Brian is located. Is that right, James?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just so you're aware of that, the main way for most people to contact is still through the SierraNet email address that will go to James. And the same phone number will eventually get to James as well through the customer
Right.
service. But anything else, anyone? Okay. So can you close us out, Brian?
Sure, yes. One thing I did want to get to was just the ARC applications that were previously approved. They would be the ones at 17890 Saddle Road, extend their patio and screen. That application was approved through SierraNet. 43801 Cattleman landscape alteration was approved. through the Syrinet approval system, and 43774 Cattleman, their solar panel install application was approved. There was a new ARC application that came through yesterday, but all of the scans came in very blurry and nothing was legible. So I'm going to reach out to that resident and let them know that their application did not come through successfully and to resubmit. And once that populates, we'll be able to get your approvals through the system on that and get that processed accordingly.
Okay.
Do we want to establish a next meeting date right now, or do we want to put that TBD at this time?
I think TBD, because we're going to need to get that spreadsheet with all the quotes on it before we can have a, meaningful discussion further.
Yes.
Okay.
So with all that, I would move to adjourn the meeting,
I second it.
and I think we're all in favor. Aye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, everyone.
Brian.
Thank you all.
You're
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.